Welcome to another episode of the Startup Junkies podcast. Thank you for tuning in if you're watching on YouTube, and thank you for listening if you're on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate it. You for tuning in, and just be sure to subscribe and do all that fun stuff. This is Caleb Talley with the Startup Junkie team. I'm joined by my co-hosts Jeff Amerine and Davis McEntire. How's it going?
It's going well. Good to be here.
Good. It's Tuesday afternoon and we have beer. How bad could it be?
And we'll work our way up to the scotch later. We are very pleased to be joined by one of our friends, a friend of Startup Junkie, Ben Clark of Be Unlimited. Ben, thank you for joining the show. It's your second time on the show?
It's my second time in about 3 years, but it's, yes, I'm excited to be here, and especially because apple cider for me, or the cider, whatever. Black
apple, hard cider, and that's the semi-sweet.
Is it? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's your daily dose of fruits and vegetables or whatever fruit.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Apple a day keeps the doctor away, right?
Yeah, but you can drink
I think black apple counts.
Yeah, it does.
It works for me. It works for me. I appreciate y'all having me on here, though, honestly.
Well, you've achieved elite status. We've had like 250 podcasts, and there's only probably a handful of people that we ever ask back. So you're in that group now.
I think it's because I screwed up the first one.
Well, you could argue it's a repeat offender, too. I mean, you could argue that. But give us, Ben, you've had such an interesting story, and I've heard it a few times, but I think it's pretty compelling. Give us kind of the origin story. What led you? You're running a great company. Be Unlimited's got a great reputation. You do a lot of really cool stuff. Give us that kind of build up from where you were and how you ended up doing what you're doing now.
So, we're Be Unlimited. We're a licensed custom apparel company that mainly works with universities across the United States. Where we started was just me and an artist in a 10 by 10 room, pretty much a garage story, just like you hear so many of the stories, but this business was already in existence. I'm not the founder, but I did hit an all-time low where I was by myself without anybody, and I had to rebuild from zero because I'm not a screen printer, I'm not an artist, and so I had to really kind of do a deep dive and kind of figure it out on my own. So I know the feeling of what it means to start a company and to grow a company. And so that was back in 2006, actually. So it's been, how many years ago is that now? Almost
15 years.
Yeah, a good 15 years ago, yeah. So,
but now you guys kind of dominate that collegiate, the Greek organization, that whole space with really cool screen stuff, right? So now we're in probably 150 universities. We're way over probably 2,000 fraternities and sororities that we work with, and have some sort of e-commerce presence with them, selling product directly to them on the individual stores sites. And then we've kind of gone from there, and we've moved to, with our licenses that we have with the universities, we've moved to the retail channels. So now we're selling retail products for the University of Arkansas and LSU and all these different SEC schools that so as they graduate now we can continue selling them. So they can be a customer for a long time.
They can be a customer for life now instead of just a customer for the 4 years that they're at the university.
So. And as someone who was a customer during my time at the university, I'm still a Be Unlimited customer with all those awesome shirts.
Yeah,
like
we
university
appreciate that.
related.
That's what we try to build. We try to build. We want to build that people see that the quality and the design factor that we offer. I mean, because we're really an art house. We have 42 designers right now.
Wow.
And so we've gone from 0 to 42, I guess. But it's pretty awesome. Yeah. And so I've got one designer, his name is Ben also, that actually has helped build that department. He's done a phenomenal job. He's probably someone that would be cool to talk to on how to build a department out, especially an art department, which he's done a wonderful job. So.
And then
you've had some recent news as well, right? I mean, you've got a pretty big announcement.
So yeah, recently. So it is a big announcement because I thought I've always been 100% owner of Be Unlimited, and right before COVID, we started thinking, how are we gonna keep growing, what other legs of the business are we going to grow, and we through some mentors of mine and counsel, some of that was going to be through some acquisitions that we needed to do. And as we started looking at some different acquisitions, then COVID hit, and one of the company that we were kind of talking to, or actually they were talking to us too, said, hey, what would you think about doing a merger? And you start, life happens in your life. I've actually had a brother that passed away a couple of years ago too. So that and COVID, things start compounding, and you start thinking, life is short, and you don't want to do it all by yourself. And so, although I haven't done it by myself, I owned it by myself, and so it all kind of, there's a lot of responsibility there. So just thinking about my wife and my kids, if something ever happened to me, what would that look like? And so through COVID, we were doing a merger, and turned into the partner wanted to buy some of my shares, and so we're now full-fledged partners in this deal. And they had a nice sized production facility down in Oxford, Mississippi. And we joined forces. They had a lot of schools that we didn't have. They had a lot of retail presence that we didn't have, and understood that retail a lot better than we did. And so they were kind of the retail experts. We were the water-based screen printing experts, and we had a really good executive team that they were able to just kind of fold underneath us, and we were able to use our leadership skills that we've over the years kind of have built that have helped kind of make this a real smooth transition. And
good cultural fit then.
Very good cultural fit. That was the first thing, actually, after visiting their store and them coming up and visiting us. And before we even started, one of the biggest things that I noticed is that these people are just like us. I mean, like, they really are just, we really enjoy being around them. I just compared each one of them to different people at our place and just thought, wow, and that's huge. I mean, because we've talked to other companies before, and I mean, especially in the textile industry, I mean, they're all over the board. And so with their values, and this company had strong values that Be Unlimited carries. And so it made it a really good fit. And honestly, it made it almost, it's gone so smooth that it's almost scary, because you're thinking, well, let's do it again. And you're just, but I don't know if it would go as smooth. It's just
you think you'll stay in that kind of acquisitive mode for growth, where you go out and if you find something else that looks like it could be
through COVID, it really has caused me to reach out to all my competitors, which has been something really different than the past, or my national competitors, where I've just been able to talk to them, and we've got on Zoom calls and met each other personally, and just kind of talk through what we're doing. And it's been real interesting. And just, hey, what happened? I mean, different states have had different laws during COVID, and it restricted companies from being able to do things. And it was good to know that you had someone there, even though they were a competitor, that could kind of would help you and pick up the pieces if for some reason all our employees caught COVID and no one could work for a month or something. And then but that was so it was pretty cool. And then just asking the question, where are y'all? What do you want to do in the future? And so, and they know kind of where we are and what we want to do and what our goals are. And so if it opens the door to, if we want to do another acquisition or do another merge with another company, that's a possibility, for sure. I mean, we have some really high goals at Be Unlimited as far as I guess our sales goes, and we're, we 10x once, and now we're trying to 10x again, and so it takes a lot of people to do that. We're at about 250 employees right now.
Wow.
So we've got a great leadership team. We just came off this last week of a leadership retreat of around 30 people that just helps lead different departments and groups, and just making sure we're all on the same page and the same course and moving the same direction, so with the same vision in mind. So
how did when you were going into the COVID situation, it was uncertain what the college scene was going to be like. I'm sure it was uncertain of what happens if we get an outbreak and we've got to shut down. How did you work your way through that? I'm sure that some of the stuff that your thought process, things you did, would be helpful to others that may still be dealing with aspects of it.
It wasn't easy. We weren't ever sure if we were making the right decision. I can say that, but we did make decisions, and we just kind of did the best we could. So the departments we knew we could send home and they could work from home, like artists or salespeople and things like that, we just let them all go home. Obviously, if you can't send a printer home, they've got to be there in site.
Sure.
Right.
So we during COVID, we made sure everybody wore masks. We spread out tables. We took out. We had before COVID, we had a chef that would make breakfast and lunch for everybody, and we kind of had to do away with that and do away with our coffee maker and all those things, that point of touch contacts that people would have, and we had people kind of stay in their pods where they were just with like 3 or 4 people only, and with masks on, and that really we really never had a major outbreak at Being Unlimited, which was nice. I mean, we had a few people but it was really more from the outside, not from the inside, and they would quarantine and then as soon as the vaccine came out, we strongly recommended all of our staff, get vaccinated, and because the most important thing for all of us is to keep the ship afloat.
Sure.
So everybody has a place to go to, and we have income coming in, so for everybody. So that's
good.
And I think one takeaway from that period of time too is the project y'all did where y'all worked with some of the bars and restaurants to kind of give them the opportunity to generate some revenue selling shirts that I forgot, it was the NWA initiative, or
we just did a business to business initiative that we did. That was it was something that we did when all the universities shut down. Of course, all the sororities went home and stuff, and so we were dead. We had to figure out some way to generate some income. And then all our friends and families' businesses shut down. So no one was going out to eat to bars and restaurants and stuff during that short amount of time. And so what we did is we partnered with them, and we just split the profits 50-50 with them and said, hey, we'll make a shirt for you. You don't have to do anything. We'll put it online. You send it out to your customer base, and we'll just split the profits. It'll help us both out, sustain our employees and the needs that we have within each of our companies. And so we probably did 1,000 of those, and all around Northwest Arkansas and farther, actually, but I mean mainly here in the Northwest Arkansas area. And then we made masks from old shirts and stuff that we couldn't print, and maybe they were labeled wrong or tagged wrong or something like that. And so we had a group of people up at the shop cutting up shirts before, when masks were hard to find back then.
Yeah.
And I still, the mask I enjoy wearing, because they were all these nice Peruvian cotton t-shirts, and so I still, they're really super soft, and so it's they don't look as nice as what you can get out there, but they sure are soft, and it's something I prefer to wear on an airplane if I'm going to have to fly very long or something like that. So,
well, I think it also demonstrates, I mean, y'all are obviously in survival mode, but it gave the community the opportunity to demonstrate support for both y'all as a brand that they value here in Northwest Arkansas, and then also their favorite bar, or Startup Junkie had shirts on there too that we were pretty proud of. So I thought that was a cool way to basically build brand loyalty there too.
It's been great. I mean, because honestly, a lot of the businesses we weren't used to working really with businesses. We're more used to working with universities. So actually it kind of built out a leg to work more with businesses. And
that diversity gave you a whole new sector.
Exactly. Gave us a whole new sector of business that we weren't doing before. So it actually worked out well. It's worked out well for us since then too, as well. So.
Yeah, is that something y'all would like to, continue moving forward? Is keeping
for
those
sure. Yeah, we definitely have a department that all they're doing is they just work with non-university stuff now. So that's
great.
Which is really cool. So.
It's awesome to see like an out of the box idea like that kind of transform into a whole other department now, right?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. And so
so you've got 10x growth streams now, right? You want to go from where you are, and that's great. And organic growth, acquisition? How are you going to make it happen?
I mean, we see what we can do. A lot of it through organic still. I mean, just through the business that we've got and the room we have to grow. Even though we're just doing a crumb on the floor. I mean, like it's but we also see that there's some places for us to do an acquisition because of just for knowledge sake, and maybe just like working with some of the big box stores that we're not used to doing. You know, that's that kind of stuff. So that's some of the places we're looking at.
You know, you also mentioned this idea that COVID kind of crystallized the idea that you needed to think about succession and having a strong leadership team, and you know, if something happens to key people. What advice would you have for other business owners that have started it, that are 100% owner? How should they be thinking about it? Because oftentimes businesses, family businesses or otherwise, they'll fail if that sort of cult of personality or that founder is out of the picture for whatever reason. How have you built that echelon of strong leadership that could run the business without you if they had to?
I will say that I really did. I had from seeing another business fail actually helped me understand that I needed to make sure that when I had been the CEO of Being Limited for a long time, and I saw that as we've grown to the size we are now, that it's really more about systems, procedures, automation, and I'm not that person at all. And we need a CEO that's real clear on that type of stuff. We had hit a ceiling with Ben Clark as the CEO of Being Limited, and if I didn't move over, that would, you know, I have no doubt that we would have died. You know, it would have not. It'd be different. So for me to move over as CEO and to name, actually Kevin Wassmiller is our new CEO. He was the chief financial officer of Being Limited for the last 5 years, so he really understands the numbers of Being Limited. But even more than that, his mind just thinks again, and like just procedures, processes, automation, making sure, holding people to standards, meetings being very productive, where, you know, I just want to have fun, you know, and so you can get a business and have fun for about, you know, for the first stage of the business. But after that, I mean, if you really want to grow, you have to come out of that fun stage, and that's hard to do because your leadership team has been having fun. I've been having fun and all that stuff too. And it's all good. And it's not like you're not having fun, but it's a different mindset as you grow up, you know, as a company. It's like coming out of adolescence and becoming an adult as a company, whereas you're just more mature and you're doing things really correct, and you're really driven by your values. You're hiring through your values. You're holding your teammates, employees and stuff to the values when you're doing reviews with them. You're holding your suppliers to your values. You're having your suppliers understand what your values are and having them hold us to those same values. You know, so it's all that stuff is real important to us.
So you've got somebody now that is that sort of point A to point B, the process and systems. And is your best and highest at this point vision and strategy and kind of what comes next? Is that where you spend your time?
So my time is now, and my new partner, he's always been more of an owner of a company instead of kind of growing and building the organization. So we have completely different skill sets, but he's really helped me understand, like, hey, we don't need to be a part of that meeting. You know, the exec team can meet without us, you know, weekly and things like that. Let's be part of these quarterly meetings and yearly meetings, and, you know, and set the vision.
Owner versus operator.
Owner versus operator. It's a totally different mindset. And it's a scary mindset. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, not be a part of the executive meeting? But how do you do that? I mean, that is really hard. I mean, so honestly, because of this, it allowed me, because of this, him buying some shares from me, it allowed me to be able to buy a home down in Florida. And so I've been living back and forth from Florida and Fayetteville, which has actually been, I didn't realize I needed to get away to be able to allow what's happened here at Being Limited. And so it's helped me kind of transition my mindset too as well. And so it's only been good. So if you're an owner or if you own a family business, I would say move your office outside your house. I came back from Florida and my desk was sitting in my garage. Actually, they had moved me out of the office. So it was, and I was thinking, okay, I get the hint. It's like, but it's actually, I mean, you have to allow someone else to take over. I mean, if you don't, you will die. I mean, you really will. I've seen it over and over again, and founders are not good, like operators when they get to this stage of the business. I mean, they can,
and I'm sure that's extremely hard transition too, especially acquiring it, a couple of years right before the economic meltdown.
It feels like really a divorce. It feels like a divorce, honestly. It's like there's a lot of stuff a lot you have to process. I've been reading a book called Halftime by Bob Buford. I don't know if y'all have ever read that book, but it really takes you through kind of that mindset of still just kind of going through, I'm not one to retire. I would never retire. My wife's made it clear that I would never retire too. But I mean, I just enjoy, my golf is work, and I just enjoy working, and that's why I enjoy what y'all are doing here at Startup Junkie, and I enjoy kind of being friends with y'all so I can be friends with other companies, small companies starting up to encourage them. But I lost my train of thought there for a second. But
it seems like you made that transition well.
But it is a transition. Yeah. So I'm trying to focus on what's significant, what's purposeful for me personally in my life, and then also where do I need to put my attention on the business to help us grow, but not in the business. And so, I mean, I'm looking at trying to find us a new facility here in Northwest Arkansas right now. If anyone knows of one, we need an 80,000 square foot facility. It's hard to find right now, but anyway, we need something bigger. We've outgrown our space, and so right now we're working double shifts, going from 6 to 11 at night, and it's so. My job now is just to work on the facility, look at other acquisitions, look at just kind of, I have one person that I kind of, that reports to me, and that's the CEO. And I just kind of pour in courage to him and let him know, because that's a lonely position. I've done it for a long time. I know that. So
I think our third podcast with you should be in Destin, right?
I agree.
And for those just listening and not watching on YouTube, Ben's new lease on life probably prompted his ponytail that he wore to the office.
It won't be long for sure.
As we've talked about, scaling through mergers and growing the company and kind of the rapid growth from where you were to 250 employees. I think Be Unlimited, for those who are familiar with the company, know y'all for being so culture and value driven, and having such a strong set of values and such a quality culture there at Be Unlimited. How have you gone about, as you've grown and added hundreds of employees, and as you look to add through mergers, how you maintain that level of making sure that everybody is kind of meshes together within that umbrella?
Well, our ethos is be unique, be yourself, be unlimited, and that's on our wall. And it's we really do encourage our employees just kind of in-house. We really want them to continue that. We don't care how big we get. And culture is not easy. It costs money. I mean, it's an investment. It's not a thing that you put a ping pong table or a beer tab or things like that will make culture. It doesn't do it. What culture is really listening to the people and letting people be valued. And I think that's what creates culture more than anything. And that's hard to do as you get bigger. So you have to kind of instill your leadership team to do that with their teams and then their teams. I mean, like, it's because you only have like a reach of about 7 people, maybe 12 if you're really good, but you have to teach those people that have that reach inside Be Unlimited to continue that on. And we're still doing stuff like Bee Retreat, and we're having a picnic for an employee picnic and things like that just create cross-department interaction, which is good. And we bring people from out of town because we have 7 retail stores outside of Fayetteville. And so we bring the managers from out of town, and just to connect with them and let them know what that culture is, so they can bring that back to those other places and too. So
how much is that strong culture played into your ability to get talent into the company? I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, because it's a war for talent right now.
It really is, and it's like, and we've had people leave just like every other companies out there's had just because of COVID. They just think, I think I'll, because we've required actually people to come back to the office, and so and they're like, well, I'm not ready to come back to the office, but this company over here is allowing me not to work in the office, so I'm going to go work for them, or whatever it might be. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just people, just different reasons. People are having babies and wanting to stay at home all of a sudden, or things. I mean, it's all over the board. I mean, I've seen it, but it's culture does play a big part. I'm telling you, it really does. I mean, because culture creates friendships, and people love working with their friends. They like being around, other people they know, and it's just, they like to feel, our culture at Be Unlimited again is, be unique, be yourself. And I think just being accepted is a big part of when people feel safe. They go to work and they feel safe and they can be themselves. I think that is huge for a workplace, and that's not always easy to accomplish, but we've really tried. We tried hard to accomplish it and maintain it the best we can. We don't always do everything right, that's for sure, and we make mistakes, but that's our goal, and we've worked at it for a long time. And there's been a time at Be Unlimited when it wasn't like that. So I mean, that doesn't happen overnight, and it does. And again, it does cost. I mean, you have to put on your P&L. I mean, it's you can't go, oh, we're not. If you're trying to pinch the numbers and everything like that, you can still do it, but I mean, it's just you're gonna have to. But it takes time, maybe cost and time. If anything, if you don't have the funds from the P&L to be able to pour into stuff for the employees to be able to get together, invite them to the house, or whatever, and just spend that time and listen, or coffee shops.
I've got a kind of the tech futures question for you. So it's a creative company, it's a design driven company, it's a manufacturing company. There's science and tech involved in all that. Where do you see the science and the technology going in your industry? I mean, what's exciting to you in terms of new directions on science and technology that might change the way you do business?
Well, we've always done screen printing, just kind of the analog screen printing, even though it's automated and stuff, but it's with all these different screens and colors. Now things are going more into the direct to garment, and we've never really approved or put our stamp of approval on the product that direct to garment puts out until here just recently. And so now we've invested $500,000 just recently into direct to garment machines that are coming in, and that we're setting up. And so that's I feel like that way is gonna change the way we do business, the way people receive things quicker and get things, so that, I mean, you're seeing that across our industry. We've been ahead of the game on the water-based inks and kind of doing eco-friendly stuff for a while now, and we actually teach that at our facility. So that's still evolving and growing a lot right now too as well. And so we actually teach a class called Origins, or an academy that we do once a year. We weren't able to do it during COVID, but we plan on doing it again next year, starting back. But that's where I see our industry kind of and the science of it all growing. And we've partnered with our ink companies and with the people that make our machinery up in Chicago, and they're always coming down, and we're creating new ways of doing things and working with them. And our technicians, I mean, they're all trained technicians. It's crazy what it takes to run a press but it's real technical.
Yeah,
And so it's
a lot of direct to consumer. You're e-commerce driven business as well.
yeah.
right?
So most of our stuff is direct to consumer. Yeah. So
Are you looking at things like AI and understanding more and more about customers? I mean, is that in a playing field?
Absolutely. So we've hired on some new people that are doing just that.
Wow.
And working in our technology, developing. The stuff that they're developing right now, and as far as just the way we're going to be able to automate or get really just to get information, back to us that's important for us to be able to make decisions on a dime is real important. So
That's an interesting area. We're seeing some stuff come out of Asia in live commerce for things like cosmetics and apparel, where you've got actually live streaming of people doing sales and where you can purchase as part of the live stream, which it's the whole world is, who knows if it'll catch on the same way in the US, but it's definitely a huge thing in Asia right now. It's an interesting area. The whole face of retail is changing.
Yeah.
Again.
It's definitely changing. And our retail stores that we've got set up throughout the United States is not just, they're really more like distribution centers.
Yeah.
So for the universities in those areas. So we're set up right next to the university, and we're able to use it as a distribution center, not just a retail brick and mortar spot. I would never really encourage anyone just to go and get a brick and mortar retail spot anymore, honestly, for what we do, because e-commerce is kind of taken over that space.
Were they all similar to what, like the location here in Fayetteville, where it's relatively small? You've got some retail, but
yeah, we got retail. But if you really do, if you walk into our retail store here in Fayetteville, you're like, oh, this is a retail store. This is crazy. But if you walk through the next door, which no one ever does because it's just like employees only, if you walk through that door, then that's where you see all the ants working and the people stuffing bags and putting, sending stuff out, because everybody's buying stuff really on online, so it's
true. So it's dual use distribution center.
So we're just using it as a distribution. So it's just
sense.
Yeah.
And then you have an option to pick up stuff at Be Unlimited too. So if you were to buy something from Be Unlimited, even on the e-commerce site, you can choose to pick it up at one of our locations, and you can pick it up there. So if you wanted to save on shipping,
living 4 minutes away from the store makes it a lot easier to save $7 on shipping.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's an aspect I've always loved too, especially being at the university right now and buying Be Unlimited products and just being able to go stop by the shop real quick and pick something up is fantastic.
It's not the prettiest shop for sure. We're kind of we're down there in just a gravel parking lot in an old warehouse that used to be an old tobacco candy storage facility, and but it works, and it works well for us, and so that's why we've never really moved it, because we don't need the sales we're able to pump out of that store. I don't think we could. It would change if we were up here on the square or wherever we were. So
if the Hogs win 8 games in football this year, is that going to dramatically increase sales for Be Unlimited?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're praying.
It actually, for those of you who are not local listeners, if the Hogs have the Arkansas Razorbacks have a winning football team, it changes the gross domestic product of the area by at least a couple of points.
And that goes with
and the economists will slap me for
everything.
It's true.
I can imagine both basketball and baseball this year were a boom.
They would have to be huge.
Yeah.
And for us, we're licensed with almost every SEC school. So and a lot more than that. But it's just but of course the SEC schools sell a lot of product, and so
didn't hurt Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, when they won the College World Series, I'm telling you. Just, from the moment, we already had shirts on pallets ready to print. We already had all the designs approved. As soon as they won, bam, we were printing shirts, stuffing shirts, running shirts to Mississippi. It was amazing.
You didn't already have thousands of shirts printed that you had to donate to, third world countries or something.
Yeah. Vanderbilt kept the rag merchants in lots of material, because I'm sure they had CWS champions stuff already printed out.
They probably do that every year.
The good thing about us is that we're so. We really didn't have to pre-print anything. So as soon as they won is when we start printing. So it's not like it's maybe the seventh inning.
That was a blowout.
For this last one, Mississippi State. I mean, it was.
And that Razorback licensing process, that's a real cakewalk, right?
Yeah, it's a real cakewalk. The good thing I get, it's timing's everything. So for me, it was fortunate that I got back. I was in the business a long time ago, and then we already had when I took over the business, it had the license for the Razorbacks, and so that was one of the alluring things for me is that it had that license. But but we've had to grow our licensing, and it's every year it's tougher and tougher to get licenses, and it's easier for us just because we're already licensed, we're a proven vendor, that we know the licensing directors, we know the CLC and the people that are managing it all, and so we can talk to them and they know that we have an A grade as far as all that goes, so very transparent and everything, and so that puts us ahead of the game, but it's still hard. It's really hard, and so because they keep trying to narrow it down who has licenses so they can have better control of it, and so it's just so it's still very difficult.
It's a valuable intellectual property asset.
It is a very
they make a ton of money on it.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of a good segue. You're in an interesting position to kind of have some opinions about this. So the NCAA states have all gone down this path with student athletes of name, image, and likeness.
Oh yeah, the NIL.
What do you think? What's the impact going to be on your industry from that standpoint? How's that going to change things?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we're licensed with all these different schools. All these different schools are handling it differently. For instance, with the University of Arkansas, they have a thing called no cap, and you have to submit your contracts. Any kind of contract you have with any athlete at the University of Arkansas has to be submitted to the University of Arkansas first for approval. Doesn't matter what it is, and then you can work with that athlete, which makes sense too. I mean, they want to kind of keep, and several other schools are using that same program. Some schools aren't using that program. Some schools are co-branding with the athletes, and so they're still getting royalties. Some schools have chosen not to co-brand at this point anyway, and so we'll see how that changes. And for us at BM Limited, it's been real easy. I mean, we've got athletes that have just reached out to us and said, "Hey, can you build us a brand? Build me a brand." And so we're already doing that for influencers and sororities and fraternities and universities and stuff. So we're just using pretty much the same model that we already have, and just transferring it over to an athlete. And our designers are creating them a logo, and they're able to kind of push that out on their site and make money from that themselves, which is awesome. I'm excited for them on that. I think it's as you worked with so many different students, it's a great place to start and kind of learn the process as a student. And so it's just like they're an athlete getting a business degree with the experience they'll get through doing this. Now, hopefully they'll have some advisors and some counsels, and it gets scary when you start hearing people making $1 million contracts and things like that, and you think there's a lot of trouble, and they get a lot of people will start like leeching onto them for the wrong reasons, and they make they're still young, and so it's hard enough for me to make good decisions all the time, and so it's like you take it as an adolescent or just someone 18, 19, and 20 making decisions with large amount of money. That puts it's a hard
the thing that the state did that was really interesting on that point was they said any deals that student athletes make while they're at the university, as soon as they declare to go pro, by state law they can invalidate all those. So if they happen to get in a bad deal, it's almost like having training wheels in some respects. They get in a bad deal, they're going to learn a bunch of stuff. Maybe it didn't work out exactly like they wanted. Regardless of even what the contract says, they can invalidate it as soon as they turn pro. So in a way, it's almost like the baseball analogy. It's like AA. You can figure some things out and figure out what it's going to be like at that next level. This is kind of AA for business.
Yeah.
Learn a few things, make a little bit of money, learn what the tax implications are. Not to get too far down the rabbit hole, but it is interesting.
No, I love talking about this.
The thing that I thought that came out, and we help support that. We're helping the office of Sarah go forth in the Office of Entrepreneurship and Innovation with some of the programming for that. But something that I hadn't even thought about is if a car dealership gives a student athlete for sponsorship the use of a car, that's treated as taxable income. Mm-hmm. So if they give them a $50,000 car and they use it 25% of the value in a given year, they've got a $12,500 taxable income event against which they have no dollars.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this was something, these kids, you think about it, particularly some that might not have had a car, come from hard scrabble circumstances, all of a sudden somebody's going to give them a nice Jeep to drive or some other cool car. They're thinking, great, it's free money. It's not free money. The IRS is coming. So some of that education, I think, was an eye-opener for a while. Anyway, I don't know what took me down that path.
Well, that's a great foundation that's being laid that I wonder
that's a
if
huge
that's
thing, and
replicated.
hopefully there's some athletes listening to
Absolutely.
this because it's, they have to think through that. And honestly, I mean, I'm sure if athletes are listening and they're wanting to kind of start up their own business, Startup Junkie's a great way.
Yeah,
Hey, come here. There's places that you can go to help kind of guide you through this stuff too as well. And reach out to the right people. Don't just do whatever pops out in front of you.
That's where I thought it was really cool that you're getting involved and helping them build brands. And they can learn a ton just from working closely with a great business operator that's got their heart in the right place.
Well, I mean, yeah, they can learn a ton. I mean, I don't want to push anybody in the wrong direction. That's for sure. And so but you're so right about there's so many different things and aspects of this that they have to think about. And the universities really are good about giving those athletes counselors of, from dietetics to managing their finances to things like that. So I think that they've always been good at that. And so I think they'll continue to, I think they'll pivot and kind of help them too as well, which will be good, like you said already.
Yeah.
Hot to throw in a kid.
We're already kind of working on that. So.
I saw the headline today was Alabama's his sophomore quarterback hasn't taken the field yet, and he had over $1 million in contracts as of today. Hasn't even played his first, started in his first game yet. A sophomore quarterback. That's over $1 million.
That's what happens when you're a 5-star recruit and you're playing for a team that, you're a betting person that will win the national championship every other year.
Yeah, and then for the business side of it, it's like, okay, well, what are your values? Does that player stand for your values too as well? And how is that going to reflect on your business?
Right.
Long
you
term.
get these young kids too that make mistakes on the business side, but they also make mistakes in their personal life too.
So,
and that reflects.
I guarantee you, with the way, we would want any player to hold our values as well as
100%.
we want them to. We would want
It's a reflection on you, right?
We would want them to hold, vice versa. We would want them to hold us to our values as well, as we would hold them to those values.
I think Jordan Wright at Wright Barbecue wins the award for Best Brand Association. The entire offensive line.
Yeah, for real.
The pit protectors.
He did a great job. Jordan's a great guy.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just so fitting, right? You think the offensive linemen are they all average 320.
Oh yeah, and they love barbecue. Everybody loves Wright's barbecue.
Exactly.
Anyway, so
And too, the part I liked about that too is a lot of those guys they're not the big name.
No, that's right.
The guys that are going to get those big deals,
Yeah,
and so taking inviting them to be a part of that too is fun for Jordan to do that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Should we land the plane?
Yeah, let's land the plane. Ben, if you had, and we probably asked you this question in previous iterations of this interview, but if you had the opportunity to go back in time, 2006 or even further back, to give your younger self advice, knowing what you know now, everything you've learned through especially the past year and a half, what advice might you give yourself?
Seek out Jeff Amerine and meet him earlier in life than
It's a paid
Startup Junkie.
You'll take his check out to cash.
Instead of trying to do it all by myself. I mean, literally. I mean, back then I really was. It was pretty lonely, and there wasn't. I'm telling you, seek out groups like Startup Junkie. I mean, they're the best in this area. But wherever, it's just like you've got to find that. You've got to find community and to help kind of navigate. And I wish I would have done that back then. That would have made things a lot easier and probably be a lot farther down the journey, I guess, possibly. I'm happy the way things have turned out, for no doubt. But it
Seems like you're on a pretty good trajectory.
we are right now. It's just knock on wood, right? Because we just
Absolutely.
But so anyway, I just seek out good mentors and advice, and I've had a lot of good ones over the years. But if I was say it, right when I started, I would say definitely kind of have those guys picked out first.
No, that's great. That's great. So we turns out we've had 100,000 plus downloads, 100 countries
Wow.
for listeners. So that's 100,000 downloads over like 5 years. So don't get too excited. But having said
Yeah,
that,
100,001.
yeah, 100,001.
That'll be my mom.
And it's like we got like half a dozen people in Belarus that understand English and they listen to us. But anyway, having said that, where can our listeners find out more about Be Unlimited? What's the best way for them to engage?
Honestly, if you want to find out more about Be Unlimited, it's best to engage probably through our website, just be-unlimited.com, or through our Instagram, or through my Instagram, just Ben Clark. I think you can probably find me. But but I think through those is probably the best way to engage with Be Unlimited and kind of see what's going on. I mean, we've got several Instagram accounts, some that just like for the headquarters, kind of see them behind the scenes, some at different locations, retail locations that are specific to just different areas like LSU or Gainesville or Athens or Starksville or Alabama and things like that. But if those are probably the best way if you'd like to continue on and kind of watch what we're doing. You can gain a lot of insight there. We really hadn't, or just come by and visit us. We're an open office, and so people can come in and see us even at our headquarters. And we always, I don't think anyone would stop and say, "Oh, let me give you a tour." I mean, come visit it.
Come to Fayetteville.
Yeah, come to Fayetteville.
And look for Ben and I'll give you a tour.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, last time I was there, the receptionist had a puppy on the.
Oh yeah, we're dog friendly. We're definitely dog friendly. If you're allergic to dogs, do not come to Finley because we have lots of them there.
Ben, thanks for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to have you.
I enjoy it for sure.